In my last video, we took a look at the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 location and recreated a night of gameplay using command blocks. Springtrap was made to be able to roam around each hallway and air vent, while the phantom animatronics could disable any one of the building's systems. So continuing on with the series, it is now time to move on to the final chapter of the original Five Nights games and build the Crying Child's house from Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and then recreate a night of gameplay all in vanilla Minecraft. This game changes the player's mechanics completely from the first 3 games, so let's take a look at everything we need to know before we get started. In FNAF 4, the most prominent gameplay detail is the absence of the camera system. Instead of checking cameras or air vents, the player must wander to different corners of a bedroom and listen carefully for the animatronics. Nightmare Bonnie and Chica appear on their respective sides of the building, while Freddy slowly appears from on top of the bed, while Foxy can wander into the closet. Now, since the gameplay isn't as complex to the first few nights of the game, for the recreation I will also be adding in Nightmare Fredbear, who appears on night 5 or at 4 AM on night 6. Fredbear acts as all of the animatronics combined, where he can appear at either door or the closet or bedroom when he laughs. FNAF 4 also has the addition of in-between night sequences, such as the Fun with Plushtrap minigame, where the player must listen carefully for Plushtrap's movement and stop him on the X. So now that we know what we're going to be working on for this video, we can now get started on the build itself, and as always, I've outlined everything in advance to prepare for this build. You'll notice that instead of just including the main bedroom and Plushtrap hallway, I've also included the rest of the house that's shown off in the minigames in between nights. This continues all the way down to the outside of the house, where I've even included a small garden, the playground, as well as the car parked outside. Now, even though the exterior does not lead to the Fredbear's Family Diner location in this map, I still thought it would be fun to add in all the outside areas shown off in the minigame, as well as building a house around all these outlines. And for the first time building these FNAF games, there was no need for any map art for this location. At first, I was tempted of making map art patterns for the wall patterns as seen in the FNAF 4 hallways, however I decided against it as it would take up too much of the build. But with that being said, I've now explained everything needed, so let's go ahead and get started working on the build. After about an hour and a half of building, we now have the full FNAF 4 house interior and exterior all completed with, and we can now go ahead and get started working on the player mechanics, starting with the movements, as even though we're able to move freely from each corner of the room, I don't like the idea of the player being able to move around freely. Despite that gameplay sounding much different than the previous 3 games, a lot of these mechanics will still be using the same systems and commands that we've used in the past by once again using items as the controls. Here are the command blocks that will be teleporting the player to each position. So the way this works is the player is going to be locked to a view in front of the bed, but can throw an item to go to each corner of the bedroom. Now these command blocks are just for the movements themselves. We still need to add a proper input instead of us actually hitting these buttons which activate the system. Each one of these command blocks teleports the player in a position that makes it seem like the player is walking, but it's really just a line of TP commands. So for example, this row over here takes us to the right side of the bedroom, so if we go ahead and click this button, we get teleported to the bed view, and then we walk all the way over to the right side of the bedroom, and then we can go ahead and see what's going on in this hallway. Then if we want to return back to the bed, we just need to activate this second chain of command blocks, which will turn the player around and move us back towards the center of the bedroom, where we can continue going to each corner of the room. This same system works exactly the same for the left door and the closet. However, for the bed, since we only need to turn around, these command blocks here are just going to rotate the player 180 degrees, so that way they're able to look behind them. I know I say this a lot, but this part is pretty easy to get, as it's just the system that moves the player by using a chain of TP commands. But now let's go ahead and add in some proper inputs, so that way we can move around while in the bedroom, and for that we'll be using a familiar design that you should recognize if you've seen the other videos in the series. So here's the finished design for the player's movements, which are just some toggle flip-flops and line of commands that move the player to the right place and give them the items needed. So just like the camera system from the first 3 games, this all starts with an item detection command block, which will send an output to this comparator and turn on this redstone torch when a certain item has been thrown, for example the closet item. That then powers this toggle flip-flop, which rotates an item throughout these droppers, which will then power one of these 2 chains of commands, either taking the player to the area to the side or back to the area in front of the bed. Now these chain of commands do a lot more than just teleport the player, as we actually need to change the player's inventory once they are at the door, so that way they have access to the flashlight, or if they want to close the door itself, which is what these 3 command blocks do. Those command blocks are linked to these chests here, which have certain items that the player needs at the time when they're at a certain place in the bedroom. As for example, we don't want the player to be able to close a door when they're looking at the back of the bed. We don't need them to do that because there's no door for them to close. So that leads us to the final command blocks back here, which clear the unneeded items from the player's inventory, stopping the player from doing things while at the wrong place. Speaking of those, these are the systems that let the player use the flashlight or open and close each door by once again using a toggle flip-flop system, except this time the player has to be standing on a certain block, otherwise the player can open and close all the doors at the same time, which we obviously don't want. To fix that, we have this AND gate here, which requires an output from both of these command blocks, so when the player throws a specific item and when they're standing on top of the right block, it will then activate this toggle flip-flop here, which will then clone each one of these door frames, either opening the door or closing it. Now with the system turned on, we can finally go ahead and check this out. So say we want to go to the left door, we just need to throw the left door item, then it takes us through this movement path until we reach the hallway, where we can then use the flashlight item to clear away the black concrete, letting us see what's going on in the hallway. Then if we want to turn off the flashlight, all we need to do is throw the item again, and then it blocks our view. However, if we hear something in the hallway, we can then throw the closed door item, which will then close the door and then protect us from any threats until we hear the animatronic leave, which we can then reopen the door and then go ahead and use the flashlight item just to make sure they've left. And then once we're done with that, we can then throw the left door item again to return us back to the bedroom view, and then we can go ahead and go to any other door. And this is the same for all corners of the bedroom, where we can either flash the light to see what's going on, or if we want to, we can close the door if we don't feel safe. Then we can wait for something to leave and then reopen the door once they've left. The only exception to this is of course the bed, where there is obviously no door to close. However, we can still turn around and use the flashlight just to make sure that there's no Freddles climbing up on the bed. Then finally, the last place we can visit is of course the right door, where we can once again run up to it and either use the flashlight to see if anything's in the hallway, or we can close the door if we do hear something, and then we wait for it to leave again. But with that, we've now completed all the player mechanics, so now we can go ahead and get started working on the core 4 animatronics that we'll be going up against in this night of gameplay. I think it would be best to start with Nightmare Bonnie and Nightmare Chica for this, as they are the simplest out of all the characters. However, I've already gone ahead and set up all the armor stands, as well as all the positioning where the characters are going to get teleported throughout the night. So now that we have that set up, we can actually get started by making them actually work by adding in a randomizer that will determine whether the animatronic is going to start its movement cycle or not. With this setup, these nightmares will work in a similar way to the Phantom characters did in FNAF 3. So when the night starts, this timer also starts by removing this redstone block, which will eventually deplete all the items from this hopper and eventually turn on this redstone torch, which will then activate this dropper, giving the character a 50-50% chance to be active or not active. If the animatronic is not active, it then goes into this clone command block here, which will clone this system over here to this position, which is going to refill the hopper, letting the cycle restart. And if the animatronic is active, then we can move on to the next step of the cycle. Once Bonnie activates, 2 different things will occur. So first, the hallway Bonnie armor stand is going to get teleported at the end of the hallway, and then this redstone block here will get removed, starting a second timer, which counts down to when Bonnie is going to move from the hallway and to the bedroom door itself. Now, if we catch Bonnie in time while he's at the end of the hallway, this redstone dust here will then get removed, stopping Bonnie from being able to teleport to the bedroom door. If that happens, we can then restart the entire system, which will restart Bonnie's movement pattern. So the way that works is by once again using AND gates, which make sure the player is standing at the left bedroom door while using the flashlight item. So once both of these command blocks have been activated, it then goes into a second AND gate, which makes sure that Bonnie is actually at the end of the hallway. So once all 3 of these are valid, it will then go into this chain of command blocks here, which will play Bonnie's animation where he moves away from the hallway and then restarts the entire cycle again to be used in the future. If we don't get there in time, this redstone dust will stay there, which will then teleport Bonnie to the door where we then need to close it. So these final command blocks here make sure that the player is once again standing at the left door and has used the closed door item, which then goes into another AND gate which makes sure that Bonnie is actually at the door, and then we'll teleport Bonnie away and once again restart the entire cycle, allowing it to be used again. So now the last thing we need to add in for Bonnie are the play sounds, so that way we can hear his movement, and then the jump scare that will happen if the player uses the flashlight while Bonnie is at the door. And we will be once again using this circuit for that. The only thing we need to change is the item detection command from closed door to the flashlight, so that way when the player uses the flashlight while Bonnie is at the door, then the jump scare will play. And then once we're done with that, we can then copy this entire circuit over for Chica, as these two animatronics work in the exact same way. So both animatronics are now added in, and I've gone ahead and activated Chica so that way I can show off the final result. So eventually we should hear some footsteps coming from our right, meaning that Chica has entered the hallway. There are the footsteps, so now we can go ahead and head over to that door. And first, let's go ahead and flash our light. We should see it at the end of the hallway, and then we can go ahead and turn the flashlight off, and now her cycle has reset, and we can go ahead and go back to the bedroom and listen for any more footsteps. So now let's go ahead and wait for her second footsteps when she's approaching the door where we have to close it. There's the first set, so let's go ahead and wait for the second. And there's the second set, so let's go over to the door and listen for the breathing sound. There we go, we hear that breathing, so we can go ahead and close the door. Then we should hear Chica starting to leave, and once we've heard all the footsteps, we can go ahead and open the door up again and use the flashlight to make sure she's left, and we've successfully dealt with Chica. So this is the way that these animatronics are going to work. The exact same works with Bonnie. So we've got Bonnie and Chica done with, and now we can go ahead and move on to Freddy and Foxy, who work in slightly different ways. I say slightly different because Nightmare Foxy's mechanic starts in the same way as Bonnie and Chica's, as when he activates, he will begin by appearing at either the left hall or the right hall, but we can still scare him off by using the flashlight if we get there in time. If we don't, instead of appearing at the door, he goes straight to the closet, which starts his main mechanic. When Foxy appears in the closet, it will then activate this system here, which is just the exact same build as the music box design from the FNAF 2 video, as just like the puppet, we need to go over to a certain area and do something that will slow down the animatronic from jump scaring us. However, instead of having a wind up music box item, Foxy gets pushed back when the command blocks in the flashlight system detect when we are at the closet and when we use the flashlight, which will eventually put him back into his plush form when this redstone line here is fully charged. And if we don't check on Foxy enough at the closet, this line will start to get unpowered and Foxy will eventually jump scare us. Finally, there is Nightmare Freddy, who uses the same design again, except this time, since Freddy is active throughout the whole night, we only need the music box designs for him. So as this timer drains, it will start to teleport these Freddles up to the bed and will start to make high-pitched noises. As this redstone line depletes, another Freddle is going to get added to the mix until all three have been added, and then Nightmare Freddy will jump scare us shortly after that. So to counter that, all we need to do is turn around and use the flashlight while looking at the bed, which will once again power up this redstone line, starting to get rid of the Freddles one by one until they've all left. So that's how the main animatronics for this are going to work. However, it's now time to add in Nightmare Fredbear, who I've intentionally left until last, as he works as all of the characters put into one, where we'll be pretty much be using a combination of all the systems we've just gone through. So I'll go ahead and create his movement patterns, and then we'll see how it turns out. Now, even though I said Fredbear will use the same systems, he still has a unique mechanic where he has 2 stages in each hallway instead of 1. So I'm not going to go into extreme detail about Fredbear's movements again, as it's things you've already seen in this video. Instead, what I want to go over are those hallway phases I was talking about, as if we hear him move to the left, for example, if we flash the light and then close the door, he will go away like any other animatronic, but if we take too long, he will jump to his second phase where he gets closer to the door before jump scaring the player. So Fredbear actually gives the player a second chance to scare him off, unlike the other Nightmare animatronics, and this works by using 2 different sets of timers if the randomizer sets Fredbear to be in one of the hallways. Speaking of the randomizer, each time Fredbear's movement starts, he has a split chance of being either in the hallway or in the bedroom, where he can be on the bed or in the closet, and just like in FNAF 4, there is a sound cue that plays that lets us know when he's moved. So I've now gone ahead and activated Fredbear so that way I can show this off. So let's wait for his movement sound cues and see where he's going to appear. Alright, that sound means he's at one of the hallways, so let's go ahead and check the one on the left and see if he's there. Nope, he's gone over to the right, so we need to go all the way back to the bedroom and then go over to the right door, and by the time we're there, he'll probably be at his second stage anyway. Yep, there he is, so let's go ahead and close the door. And we hear the footsteps, meaning he's left. So if we go ahead and open the door again, he is now left, and now his cycle is going to restart and he can go anywhere else throughout the room. So we'll go ahead and wait again for another movement and see where that's going to appear. So we'll just wait a few seconds. That's a laughing sound, meaning he's either on the bed or in the closet. So let's see. Yep, there he is on the bed. All we need to do is shine the flashlight for a little bit, and then he disappears, and once again, his cycle restarts. So this is exactly how Fredbear is going to act when he activates at 4 AM during the night. With Fredbear now added in, we have now finished the mechanics for the main night of gameplay. However, there is still one final thing left to add in to complete this recreation, and that is the Fun with Plush Trap minigame that we'll be getting after we beat the night. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that's going to work. Now, Plush Trap's design is actually very similar to Foxy's from FNAF 1, where the character has a countdown until a jump scare happens, but the player is able to slow it down. FNAF 1 has the character check the cameras for Foxy, and FNAF 4 has the player use the flashlight to slow down Plush Trap. When the flashlight is turned off, this redstone block will get removed and unpower this redstone line, which will let all the items inside these hoppers funnel down into these chests until there's eventually none left, which in that case, this redstone torch will turn on and swap out two different armor stands, moving Plush Trap progressively towards the player. The difference with Plush Trap is when he's standing on the X and we use the light, we win the minigame, but if we take too long, then Plush Trap will jump scare the player. This AND gate here makes sure any of those things happen by detecting when the entity is standing on top of the white concrete block, as well as when the player is using the flashlight. So once those inputs are both valid, it will then send an output into this command block here, which will turn off the timer and then give the text of when we win the minigame. Something else we need to consider is when Plush Trap is hiding behind a door frame, we need him to disappear again, just like how he does in game. So what I've done is I've added in two separate AND gates here, one for each door frame, that detect when the player uses the flashlight item as well as Plush Trap is standing at one of those door frames. It will then turn on these two command blocks here that are going to hide Plush Trap from the player's view for the short period of time. Lastly is the countdown, as the player has a certain amount of time to get Plush Trap on the X before they actually lose the run. So this timer setup right here will begin when the minigame starts by removing this redstone block, unpowering this line, and all of these items in the hoppers will start to get depleted into this chest here. Once that's happened, it will then activate these redstone torches, which are going to set a boss bar on top of the screen as seen right now, which is going to indicate how much time is remaining. So as the items start to deplete, this timer is going to start going down all the way until it hits 0, and that's when Plush Trap is going to jump scare the player, ending the run. So now with Plush Trap completed, we have now built everything needed to complete this recreation, and like always, I've added in some final details such as a starting room and the time mechanic that will show us what time it is throughout the night. But with all that being said, we have now finished everything and we are now ready to play a night of Five Nights at Freddy's 4 in Minecraft. I hope that you enjoy, and let's see how we do. Alright, let's begin 12 AM the first night. I'm honestly really curious to see how this is going to turn out in comparison from the last 3 games, but when I replayed through FNAF 4 before starting work on this project, I actually had a bit of a strategy where I'd just wait until I heard moving and then go over to that door. I'm not entirely sure how that strategy is going to work for this minigame, however, we'll just have to wait and see. There's moving already, so let's go ahead and check the right side, see if anyone's there. No breathing. However, I do hear the Freddles already, so we're gonna have to go all the way back to the bed and check on the Freddles. Let's get rid of you guys. I feel like they're going to be the most annoying out of everyone throughout the entire night, as they're going to be the most active. Let's go ahead and check on Bonnie on the left. Yep, there's the breathing. Alright, let's go ahead and close the door. I'm probably going to have to end up being a bit quiet during this gameplay. As you can imagine, the breathing is very hard to hear, especially when we have the Freddles going on in the background. So I'm going to have to listen very carefully for any moving, and the Freddles are back. Is Chica there though? Yep, Chica is there. You can just hear that over the Freddles. And Chica has now left. So if I use the flashlight again, she's left. Awesome. Good to go. Let's go ahead and go back to the bed and get rid of those Freddles. I'd rather have none than too many on the bed. So rather be safe than sorry. Get rid of them all. And now we can hear again. So someone's moved again. Let's go ahead and check on Chica on the right. No one's there. Alright, so it must be Bonnie on the left then. So alright, well, the Freddles are back, so let's go ahead and flash on the Freddles. Get rid of you guys. There we go. Nice and easy. And now let's go check on Bonnie. Is anyone there? Yep, there's Bonnie. You can hear the breathing. Wait for him to leave. Awesome. He's gone. Checked in just in case. Oh, there's Foxy at the end of the hallway and Bonnie. Alright. So Foxy's now active. We're going to have to pay attention to him as well, to when he runs into the closet, because that's going to be the most important part, is paying attention to when he actually goes into the closet. And then we have to pay attention to all 4 of them at once. 3 AM though. Anyone here? No one? Good. Alright, good to go. Let's go back. Let's just check the closet just in case I've missed it during that time. Is anyone here? Hello? Yep, there's Foxy. Okay, yep, let's go ahead and close that closet. I must have missed the sound cue for that. And now the Freddles are back. Awesome. Foxy's still there. Foxy's still there. However, the Freddles are back. We're going to have to keep Foxy there for the time being. Hopefully he doesn't jump scare us. He's not reset entirely. However, it still gives us a small chance to go ahead and check on the other animatronics. So let's go and check on Chica again, just in case. No breathing. No one's there. Alright, let's go over to oh, it's 4 a.m. now, actually. Never mind. It's Nightmare Fredbear's time. So now, instead of listening for breathing, we just need to listen for his laughter or the pit-pat. So, let's just... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that's his laughing. So, is he on the bed? He's not on the bed. He's actually in the closet. So, let's go ahead and run over there and use the flashlight. Is he there? Yep, there he is. Alright, close the door. Alright, that means he's left. Use the flashlight. He is indeed gone. Awesome. Alright, so now we just need to wait for him to move again. Not entirely sure where that's going to be or when. Let's just keep waiting though. Maybe just go over just in case. 5 a.m. Alright, he's moved, so he must be over at the right side. Let's go ahead and check the right side quickly. Is he there? Yep, he is in fact there. Let's go ahead and close that door. He's gone. Good to go. Alright, good. That's good. That's good. It's good. It's 5 a.m. We don't want to lose this now. Let's wait for his last movement, maybe. Just in case. Very quiet. This is the most tense out of it all. Just waiting for Nightmare Fredbear to appear. Alright. Yep. There's the breathing. Nope, he's in the closet. Okay, we'll have to go over to the closet then. Make sure he doesn't get us there. Let's just go ahead and close the door. But we've done it. Just there we go. So he just went into the closet. And just in time, it is 6 a.m. We beat the night. Very, very intense gameplay. There was Nightmare Fredbear at the end. But really glad we managed to get that. But with that, we've now beaten the main night against the Nightmare animatronics. So now it's time to move on to part 2. And see how we can do against Plushtrap in his separate minigame. Alright, let's go ahead and begin the minigame. So fun with Plushtrap. This one is entirely sound orientated. So I'm definitely going to have to pay attention to what's going on here. So let's go ahead and flash the light. There he is at the very end. We've only got a certain amount of time to do this, so we're just going to have to get right into it and pay close attention to any movement. There he is. Okay, that's movement 1. Time is going down, however, so I'm probably going to have to keep the flashlight off for longer than I really want. Let's just keep on. That's a second movement. I'll wait until there's another movement, and then I'll check the flashlight again just to be safe. Time is going down very quickly, however. Where is he at now? Alright, he's about halfway through. Alright, we're almost there. Just 2 more movements, and then he will be on the X, and then we'll be able to beat the minigame. Where is he right now? Alright, he's right there. Okay, one more. We're almost there. Just wait for the last movement, and then we've got him on the X. There we go. Great. So there we go. That's the Plushtrap minigame. Really nice, really simple, and it's just a small little minigame to help you in between the 2 nights. So now that we've beaten both minigames, there is only one final thing left to do for today's video, and that is to showcase all the jump scares, as FNAF 4 does have a surprising amount of them for us to check out. So let's go ahead and take a look, and then we can wrap things up for today's video. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is now going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed, as it was a lot of fun putting this build together. If you're interested in future projects of mine, then be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on, so that way you know next time I upload and you can help the channel to continue to grow. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will of course see you in my next video.